The Texas Tech men's basketball 2023-2024 season is officially in the books. In today's video, we'll recap the season, discuss the best moments of the year for your Red Raiders, as well as give a grade for year number 1 of Grant McCasland. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. And you know I love to get interactive here on the channel. I want to hear from you guys from the jump. Head down to the pinned comment below and let me know your initial thought when it comes to what grade you would give Texas Tech for this year in year number 1 of Grant McCasland. Is it an A, B, C? Are you going to be a little harsh and go D? Let me know your, grade down on the pinned comment down below. And if you haven't already, head on over to the scarletandblackinsider.com to stay in the know on everything Texas Tech men's basketball on the recruiting trail. We've already got a list of portal contacts for the Red Raiders and players that they are interested currently in the portal right now. You're going to want to stay in the know over there. And the best part about it, your first month is just $1 when you use the code SBI. So head on over to scarletandblackinsider.com, use the code SBI, and get your first month for $1 and stay in the know a lot more than your friends probably when it comes to Texas Tech men's basketball on the recruiting trail. The link will be in the comments and in the description below. All right, let's get into this, and we'll start out by this. Year in review. It's year number 1 of Grant McCasland. Texas Tech was picked to finish 8th in the preseason Big 12 poll, if you don't remember that, behind Iowa State, right in between Iowa State, actually, and West Virginia. They only returned one starter, and his name was Pop Isaacs, so you have that as well. Now, when it comes to the top moments of the year for the Red Raiders in no particular order, these are some of the ones that stood out to me. Obviously, the thrilling comeback against Kansas State. That was a big one where Joe Toussaint had that and one with less than a minute to go, and Texas Tech ended up winning 60-59. Also, speaking of a comeback, Pop Isaacs leading the charge for the Red Raiders against a top 20 BYU team where Pop scored 32, a career high, and Texas Tech won 85-78. Now, I'd be remiss not to mention that first Big 12 victory of the Grant McCasland era where Texas Tech went down to Austin and beat the, out of the Longhorns. Also, Texas Tech literally almost having a perfect night. Well, one player did for the Red Raiders, and that was when they destroyed a top 6 Kansas Jayhawks team out in the 806 by a score of 79-50. Darrion Williams was perfect and scored a career-high 30 points. Another thriller out in the 806 was the game where Texas Tech got a little bit of revenge against TCU. That one was fun. But I want to hear from you guys again. I know I asked your grade, but one more question for you. Let me know your favorite moment of the 2023-2024 season for Texas Tech before we get into the positives and the negatives from this season, because I think there's a lot more positives than there are negatives, but I want to hear your favorite moment from year number 1 of Grant McCasland out in the 806 down in the comments below. All right, let's get to the positives for this team in year number 1 of Grant McCasland, and they're at the bottom of your screen. And this is just kind of my thoughts on it, because I think there were obviously a lot more positives, but there were some negatives, and we'll talk about the negatives here in just a second. But I love how this team fought. Each and every night, they gave 100%. Did that mean they won every game? Absolutely not. But you knew night in and night out, Texas Tech was going to give it 100%. Getting back to the NCAA tournament, albeit losing in the first round, was huge considering where Texas Tech was coming into the season. Again, only one returning starter, and the foundation for this program was crippling after that disastrous season last year, okay? So you think about that. And then, oh, by the way, they finished tied for 3rd in the toughest league in America. They had multiple players make all Big 12 team in terms of Pop Isaacs and Darrion Williams, who made the all Big 12 3rd team. And then I'd be remiss not to mention Joe Toussaint also made a, honorable mention team for the Red Raiders. Now, they also laid the foundation and really just helped propel Texas Tech back to where they should be, in my opinion. Not to mention the injury aspect of it, where they really, really fought hard from an injury perspective all year long. Another aspect that I think we need to talk about is just how much Grant McCasland got out of this roster. Okay, from this sheer standpoint, I'm not trying to knock it, but if we're being realistic from the standpoint of, okay, looking at the rosters that finished ahead of Texas Tech in the Big 12 standings, you got Houston, you got Baylor, and then you got Iowa State. Obviously, Iowa State above Baylor. Those teams are more talented 1 through 14 than Texas Tech. But I think Texas Tech got the absolute most out of their roster, specifically in Big 12 play, and then moving forward. Listen, the foundation was cracked, as I mentioned. Grant McCasland came in with his team and really just put some concrete over it and made it a whole lot better moving forward. And now the expectations for the Red Raiders moving forward is what you thought really before last season in terms of 2022, 2023, where each and every year Texas Tech was bare minimum going to make the tournament and then compete to make the second weekend. That's now the new norm for Texas Tech, going back to what it was just a couple years ago. And it's great to see because Grant McCasland and crew have done a phenomenal job, in my opinion, of relaying that foundation, getting the culture back, and making sure that Red Raider Nation knows that, hey, this program is headed on the right track. Now, as for negatives, let's get into this. I think there is a couple. I think Texas Tech was far too inconsistent this year, and some of that was due to the injury aspect of things where you were kind of shuffling, but the main inconsistency was shooting. You started out Big 12 play on an absolute heater. You were phenomenal, and then you had that roller coaster where you went down with Pop and Chance, where at one point they were 1 for 33 combined from deep. The shooting, that was a roller coaster because they went back up at the end of it, and then obviously we know what happened against NC State. But physicality was the biggest word that Grant McCasland said each and every day, it felt like, at every press conference that you listened to, that it got better at the end of the year, but it was something that Texas Tech struggled with, in my opinion, and was one thing that was a negative more so than anything. Now, some of that physicality just came from the lack of front court depth overall. I mean, RJ was solid, and so was Ameli Elahu, but they were in roles that were probably bigger than what they expected to be in this season with the injuries to Warren Washington. They did a solid job and helped Texas Tech get back on track at the end of the year. But overall, roster depth, which is my next point, really limited the Red Raiders in the sense of they need another 2 or 3 big men on this team. And by big men, I mean at least 2 center types. And then also, hey, you need a guy that's just a wing. You need that. And so I think that that's what Texas Tech is going to target in the portal heavily. But when it comes to the overall grade that I'm going to give the Red Raiders in year number 1 of Grant McCasland, I'm going to give it a B+. Again, you were picked to finish 8th in the Big 12 Conference. You returned 1 starter after just a putrid year the year prior. You started late in the process. You went out and you got a guy that, in my opinion, in the portal should have been an all Big 12 second teamer in Darrion Williams. You went out and added a Chance McMillan. You went out and got a guy like Joe Toussaint to help stabilize the ship. But you have a foundation now potentially with 3 core players in Pop Isaacs, Chance McMillan, and then Darrion Williams. That's a really good core. Now you can go out and really address the needs that you have in the portal and make sure that you have the optimal chance to make it to the second weekend, because now that's the expectation for this team and this program moving forward each and every year. And I'm not going to be the one to tell you that in terms of like, oh, RC, stop putting pressure on these guys. I guarantee you they have higher expectations in that building than anything that I could say here on this video. Okay, that's going to be the expectation. But overall, for me, year number 1 of Grant McCasland, that's a B+. I mean, I thought he did a sensational job. I thought everybody in the building did a great job with a bunch of negatives in terms of injuries, roster depth, outside, stuff going on. I thought they did a great job, but I want to hear from you guys. You tell me, give the 2023-2024 Texas Tech men's basketball team a grade. A, B, C, D, or F. You want to go B+, B-, let me know down on the pinned comment below. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video to stay in the know on everything Texas Tech men's basketball all year long. I'll have another transfer portal target video here up on the channel in the next, 24 hours or so. So you're going to want to stay in the know right here on the largest group of Texas Tech fans on YouTube, and better yet, the most interactive and engaging group of Texas Tech fans here on YouTube in the Back to 12 podcast channel.